Hey, hey everybody. This is Carlton Hamilton. This is Plan Your Greatness. In the home office today. Again, here we go. Plan Your Greatness. All right. Just trying to have a little fun today. We are going to be talking, I'm going to get through this quickly, but we are going to be talking about, as we have been following, let me just go ahead and write this. We have been talking about the 9 pillars of success. Just so visual. The 9 pillars of success. All right, this is in chapter 11 in the book, and we have been going through the series, and today we are going to cover more specifically pillar number 5. And pillar number 5 is actually more specifically, hold on a second, camera's trying to take a mind of its own. Hold on, let me get that squared away. There we go. All right, so we're going to be covering number 5. Now we're going to go quickly through this. We have already covered number 1, which was show up and show out. 9 pillars of success. Number 2, stop lying to yourself. Number 3 is give every goal a deadline. Number 4 is no excuses, and now we're at number 5, which is master the gift of you. Number 6 is no plan B. Number 7 is trust your mind's eye. Number 8 is don't be afraid to fail. And number 9 is maximize your day the night before. All right. Hold on. Let me turn this air off because I be buzzing in the background. I always have to turn the air off in the office because it gets pretty loud, and there's a refrigerator here in the office, and I always have to turn those things down because let me make sure I check on the refrigerator. Yeah, I had to turn that down too because those things, these new microphones, today's microphones, they're so sensitive, they pick up everything. But all right, let's get back into it. All right, understand that we started this out talking specifically about the book, which is Plan Your Greatness. Right over here. There's the book. Plan Your Greatness. Life, Love, and Business After Sports and Prison. That book was created out of a journal that I kept every day while I was in prison. Once I got out, finished college, I actually went back to that book. I went back to that journal and just started looking over things that I was going through in my life as I was writing this journal in prison. And it became evident that there were 3 questions that propelled me to becoming a professional baseball player when I was a kid. And those 3 questions were, Carlton, what do you want? And in one of my other videos, you can pull that up as far as the Mitchell Report, where I made a decision that I was going to be a professional baseball player. So the first question I asked myself was, Carlton, what do you want? The next question that I asked myself was, why do you want what you want? And then the third question was, can you see it? Can you see it in your mind before it appears in the world? Now that's what I'm challenging you all, and that's what the book is about, as far as I asked myself those 3 questions after I viewed my journal and found out that those 3 questions propelled me to being a professional baseball player. But the tricky thing was that I was not prepared for after professional baseball. And so what happened is, instead of me going back to those questions to start over again and start a new life, I completely discarded those questions and started just living life on my own. And consequently, what happened was I ended up going to prison. Depression, homelessness, all those things just came crashing down because I did not ask myself, what do you want? Why do you want it? And can you see yourself obtaining that goal? Again, because of that, I went right to prison. Now, after prison, I do not know, other than just the grace of God, put that idea back in my head to say, Carlton, you need to revisit those questions. So while I was in prison, I asked myself those questions so that when I got out of prison, I hit the ground running. Went back to school, started working, got my degree, and then I remember picking up the journal again and looking at it and going, oh my goodness, look at what I have gone through and how did I get through that? Okay, so that's where we are today. Is I'm now sharing the journey of how did I become this professional baseball player, what happened during that time, and then what caused me to nosedive after baseball, and then how did I regroup, reprogram, rewire myself to get out of that hole of a convicted felon to where I am right now, where I'm a business owner, I'm a father, I'm an author, and I don't know what else is out there on the horizon for myself, but there's a ton of things that I'm going to do, and this is just the start of it. All right, so again, after you asking those 3 questions, what typically happens, and I go through this on all of them. When you ask yourself the 3 questions, this is the process. You then have these daily behaviors. From those daily behaviors, you create habits. From those habits, you create skills. From them skills comes knowledge. From that knowledge, execution. From that execution to character. Character becomes your destiny, changes your life. All right. Then you create this new self-talk, this new faith. That faith gives you a little bit more focus, and in some cases laser focus, and then that focus allows you to have more direction, and when you have direction, you can set plans. All right? Then from there, you become a tool for yourself, not allowing other people to utilize your skills for their benefit. You're taking your skill set and you're actually able to utilize others as you are moving forward in your life toward your goal. 3 questions. Now, once you've done all that, then now you have something to sit right on top of the 9 pillars of success or the 9 pillars of wisdom. All right. So this is now where we start breaking it down. Now today, number 5, master the gift of you. And what I mean is that you are in a lifelong pursuit of your greatness. You're playing your greatness, and now you are working that greatness all the way through. Now, I read something, or I heard something, because as I've been on this journey, I have started listening to some of the past greats as far as motivational speaking, empowerment, whether it was Napoleon Hill or it's already up now today, somebody like Willie Jolly, who some of you guys have never even heard of, but I just love his energy and his presentation. And Jim Rohn, who I believe was the mentor of Tony Robbins, he said, work harder on yourself than your job or your career. And then he also went on to say is that when you work harder on yourself, he said it this way, if you work hard on your job or your career, you're going to make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, improvement, self-development, he said you'll make a fortune. And that has always set well with me. And so that's how I've tried to approach it, as far as always be trying to improve myself. And then that's going to spill over into my job, into my life, into the things that I want to do and accomplish. All right. Now, taking that into consideration, we got to go all the way back to when my mother introduced me to the game of baseball, because if I haven't shared it before, at some point in time I will share it later on how that introduction, and I know it's in the book, that introduction to baseball saved my life. All right. I was a very angry kid. And I've always felt that I was trying to prove something, really trying to prove something to my father, because there were very powerful instances in my life where my father made me feel as though that I wasn't good enough. I was absolutely just this background noise. And if I haven't shared that, and I'm not sure, I have shared it in video, I don't know where it is, but I've shared that story, and I'll probably revisit it at some point in time, but not at this point. But again, trying to prove something to my father. And what my mom noticed, and this is where we're talking about mastering yourself. My mom noticed that if she whooped me, it didn't matter. I don't know if it was so much I had a high pain tolerance, but I think I just had a thought process that this is temporary. You can whoop me for 30 minutes, but if you allow me to go back outside, in my mind, it was worth it. I could endure the pain. I think I even would just go to someplace else while they were whooping me, and my mind was off someplace else, even though my body was getting beat like a slave. Okay, so what my mind recognized was that it was isolation. It was restriction. Okay, it wasn't the punishment. That did nothing. That didn't deter me from anything. But when she sat me in the house and I couldn't go anywhere and I couldn't do anything, that was the most just soul crushing time that I can remember as a kid, was not being able to leave the house. So my mom needed to redirect that energy, and that's when she got me started in organized baseball. Because see, now I ran across some statistics, and we've seen that. I mean, there's a bunch of them. Teen pregnancy, drug use, dropout, everything that you can connect with a delinquent minor, you can almost 60-70% of it is connected to a father not being in the home. Okay, or just not being mentally present. And here I am, one of those statistics. So the understanding is at that particular time in my life, there's these stages of manhood that I've come to understand that happens with little boys and girls, but more specifically, I'm talking about little boys, is that at a very early age, you're looking for safety and love. All right. And then after that, you're looking for control of your environment and exploration. And then the last phase is when from that, hopefully you get to that point, is you're looking at empowerment and impact on the world. Now, here's what's interesting. If you do not have good mentors in your life, you may never get to that point where you feel feel empowered or empowering anybody, or you feel impactful to the world. You may be stuck in this seeking control and exploration. That's where you see a lot of kids nowadays out there, drugs and all the other stuff like that, because I'm safe. And some kids don't even feel that they feel loved, don't even feel safe. So they never get to that point of feeling that they're in control or being able to explore in their environment. And so now they're wavering in between those. But those are three crucial stages that I remember that I was going through. But what I tended to do is I always took action. I always was searching. I never found myself really bored, because I always found something new. But you see that nowadays with kids, is that you see them feeling as though they're bored. And I've always been under the impression that if you think that you're bored, it's because that you are believing that you're believing that the world should be stimulating you, as opposed to you being in this search for stimulation on your own. You see what I'm saying? That's what's happening. I see kids nowadays. I've seen this same kid as I come home. I see this same kid at this Jack in the Box sitting out there. I don't know if he's using Jack in the Box's Wi-Fi, but he's sitting there and he's on his phone for hours, searching for something to stimulate himself. And I'm thinking, why doesn't he go? There's a recreation center right around the corner. I was like, why doesn't he go over to this recreation center? Why doesn't he go do something else to stimulate his mind? Why doesn't he go get himself a library card? Well, probably because no mentor or older person has really introduced him to, hey, there's more to life than this little box, that you're basically looking at someone else's world and seeing what they're doing, as opposed to you going out and creating a world for yourself and then having other people, and you can actually inspire and empower other people. That's what I'm always thinking. All right, so, and that's what I'm talking about with technology. Technology has accelerated the speed. When we're talking about mastering the gift of you, is that technology has allowed us to accelerate our greatness to a record speed. Okay, there was no internet or anything around when I was in prison. I had no access to any of that stuff, so I had to dig in books. I had to just grab newspapers. Now everything that I did and the speed in which I gathered my knowledge while I was in prison, a person could do that in probably 9 months, and it took me 4 years to do that. All right, so we are in an information society. So as you are trying to master yourself and learn all this information, understand this, that we are in an information society, taking some information from here and bringing it over here. You're either putting yourself in the middle, grabbing people from this way, connecting them to the other side. It's totally, we are totally immersed in this information society. All right, because of that, there's an old saying that readers are leaders. And Dr. Dennis Kimbro said something. I wanted to make sure that I can kind of smash it all together. He said that if you read a book a week for 3 years, you will gain recognition throughout your community. All right. He said if you read a book a week for 5 years, you'll gain national attention. And we're not just talking about randomly books or whatever like that. It could be, but I think he's talking about you put yourself in a specific field of interest and you just a book a week on that particular field. Now, the last thing he said was if you read a book a week for 7 years, you will garner worldwide attention. Now, I'm sure there's some asterisks to that, but just what he's saying is that if you diligently are trying to master the gift of yourself over a 3, 5, 7 year period, he says you're gonna make a change. You are going to make a change out there in the world. All right. So with all that information, these are things you need to make sure that as you are mastering the gift of yourself, you need to make sure you're keeping these things in mind. Who knows what you know? Okay. What is unique about what you know? Okay. What is your gift? Who knows you have this gift? How much is this gift worth to others? Have you written this gift down in the form of a book? Have you created a website? Have you created maybe even a webinar? Have you created a lecture, a PowerPoint, or some sort of resource that people can access it? Because it doesn't matter what you know. If nobody knows you know that and you're not making an effort to market it out there, then that information is just like walking into a library. It's not useful to anybody because it's not being taken advantage of. All right. I came across something as I was looking through the information here, and I wrote this in the book, and it says there's over 1 million words out there right now. And I think in the English language, and they said most of us know about 3,000 of those words. But of those 3,000 words, we only use a third of them 80% of the time. So we're just regurgitating a lot of the same information all the time, but we have this vast amount of knowledge that we have, but we don't use it. So we're very creatures of our own habits of things. And I found that important because when I was in prison, remember, and I said this before, when I entered prison, let me see how much time am I working with. Okay, we're good. We're good. Not too long. When I was in prison, or when I entered prison, you have to know my past. Special ed student, graduated high school with a 1.5 grade point average, barely got through any of my classes, probably was operating when I got into prison at about maybe a 5th or 6th grade level of reading. So when I got to prison and I started reading just like an absolute maniac, one of the things I did was I copied a little bit of Malcolm X in the autobiography of Malcolm X. Now, if you're familiar with that story, or if you've actually seen the movie, Malcolm actually read through the entire dictionary. So by the time he got out, there wasn't a conversation that he could not handle because he knew the word, he knew the breakdown of it, he knew what it meant. So he could either listen to the conversation, know exactly what they're talking about, or in the form of context clues, really absorb the conversation and really speak on it. Now, what I did was I knew I wasn't going to be in, because Malcolm was in for 7 years. I was only in for 4. So I didn't think I was going to be able to achieve that goal. So what I did was just started reading. And every word that I came across that I did not understand, I would stop reading, put down my book. I would go open up regular dictionary. We didn't have no Google. I'd open a regular dictionary, find the word, highlight it, write it down, write down the phonetic spelling, write down the definition, and then put it into a sentence. Close the book, Go back to reading. Now, most of you are thinking, as I was even going through that process, you're like, man, I ain't got enough time for that. I was in prison. I had all day. So I created a smaller vocabulary, but it far expanded my vocabulary by the time that I got out. So here's what prompted that use of time. When I was playing professional baseball, I was 20 years old. I went to a team party. And at that party, we're talking, I'm 20 years old. I barely went to college. So now I'm playing on minor league teams. And this was one of the advanced minor league teams. And so I'm playing with a lot of college students. And I'm talking about guys who went to Stanford. Let me just think of the schools. Stanford, TCU, Cal Berkeley, USC, UCLA, Arizona State University, University of Nebraska, University of Texas, Northwestern University, University of Wisconsin, North Carolina. I mean, I was playing on teams with guys from all over the country. Very smart dudes. So we're in this conversation at the party. I decided that I'm going to show up. I'm pretty shy, and I can't get into clubs. So we have a team party. I'm like, bet, I'm there. So get to the party. Conversations are going on. Two of my teammates, Pillar, big old tall guy, and then there's JC, I'm just using their initials, are having a conversation with some girls. And John is this very articulate, kind of snarky dude. Good dude, just snarky in his way. So he uses a word that clearly he saw my reaction that I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. So he looked at me and was like, I bet you don't know what that word means. And I said, yes, I do. But in the back of my mind, I was like, man, I don't know what the hell that dude was talking about. So I took my beer. Yes, I'm 20 years old, drinking underage. Yes, I was. And I go outside. I find myself a little corner at this old house in North Carolina. And I start crying. And what I said to myself was, I said, you mark my words. I said, I'm going to be in a conversation later on. I said, I'm never going to be that ignorant to words and everything. So I didn't immediately start reading or anything until years later. But I know in my subconscious mind that was in the back of my mind to master the wording so that I would be very powerful in how I spoke and how I understood, and I could sit in a conversation, didn't have to say a word, but I was like, yep, I know exactly what we're talking about. So that was what empowered me. And another story was when I got to ASU, when I got out of prison, okay, I was taking these two classes at the same time. One of them was social theory, and another one was African American history, 1865 to the present. So basically from slavery up until now. Now, when I showed up to each one of these classes, I didn't have the book. All I brought was a notepad and a pen. And why didn't I do that? Because when I looked at what the books, the class were talking about from the syllabus and the actual book, I had read so much material while I was in prison on African American history and on social theory, where I didn't felt I needed to buy the book. So as I sat in each one of these classes, a lot of times I sat there with my head down, and I would be there, I'd be there, like, this is my notepad. I'd be there just kind of scribbling, and if I heard something, I'd make a little note, and I wouldn't even really look up the lecture because I was just listening. I'm very much an auditory learner, so sometimes I've gotten myself in trouble because people would be talking to me, and my eyes would close because I would hear the sound, feel the vibration. Let me see what time it is. Oh, we're still doing good. Feel the vibration and get a better understanding of what somebody was talking about. So most of the time they're talking about topics that I was very familiar with. Now, if any of the classes, the conversation kind of went sideways, I would then raise my hand and try to bring everything into its proper perspective of the conversation and then get the conversation going back in the right direction. I had the ability to do that. I still have the ability to do that in conversations that I listen to now. Now, here's what's interesting. I always saw the classroom reaction every time I did that. Because you're talking about students that are between the age of 18 to about 24. Don't have a lot of life experiences. Basically are reading the books and just regurgitating that stuff back to the professor. But here you're talking about somebody that was in his 30s with all this life experience, ups and downs. When I was in prison, I read everything you could possibly think of. So now I'm combining my life experience, the books and stuff that I read, everything that I could think of was combined in an answer when I delivered it to the class. So I always saw the class reaction looking at me and the professor as well, like, where did that answer come from? And I knew where it came from. It came from everything I just described. So both of the professors called me into their office 2 separate times, but they said almost the same thing. They said, Mr. Hamilton, I'm glad you're in our class. Every time that you speak, you bring such fire and insight, and you help move the conversation in the right direction. Always. It's just such a pleasure having you in it. But I must ask you, I said, you don't bring anything. You don't even have the assigned material. The book. Well, actually, if you look over there in the corner, I actually did, for one of the classes, I did buy the book, Social Theory, because I looked at it and it had some great stuff in it. But let me get back. All right. So they both asked me, like, how was I able to do that? Now, and I have this interaction in the book, is that I said to myself quickly, man, I wanted to just tell them, give them my story. Hey, I played ball, went up and down, went to prison. Went through about 7-8 years of undiagnosed depression. I came out of that. I read a whole bunch of stuff. And so I'm here sitting in your class with all this experience and life and everything. And that's what I give as far as the answer. But don't have enough time. And I don't want them to actually even judge me based on that. Because I think some people will just have, an ex-con. So I just told him, I just said, hey, I just read a lot. That's what I said. All right. So from there, understanding, we're still talking about mastering the gifts of you. Now, as we put that together and understand how my story and how I've been trying to master my way and master new things, this is where I'm at right now. I mastered baseball. Okay. Thank my mom for introducing me to the game, and then I just took it and I ran with it, and I became a baseball player. I almost played for a decade. After I went through the ups and downs and now I got out, I started uncovering new gifts. As you can see, my athletic ability, my introduction into school at a young age clouded the very things that I'm very good at right now. I'm an excellent writer. I'm an excellent presenter. I have presence. I have a lot of insight. Super knowledgeable about things. I could advise people on businesses. I can advise people on leadership. I can just write. I could probably write speeches. I mean, there's a number of things that I have a skill set for. And so I took that mastery of baseball, and now I'm trying to master this internet, social media, all these different things, these very raw videos that I'm making right now. I'm going to turn these things and make some connections, and then these are going to start to be some very funny, much funnier. There's going to be some very cool editing. I know I'm going to do that. I just don't do it right now because I'm not paying somebody, but in time that's going to come about with the book and all the other stuff. So as I look at that, now this is something, hold on a second, this is something you don't see. I believe in one of my earlier videos, I had my glasses on. I wear glasses. Okay, I wear these glasses. Hold on a second. Or I wear these glasses. Now I'll probably edit this, chop it up or whatever later on, but right now you'll see it. So I'm either wearing these glasses or I'm wearing those other glasses. But for the sake of the video and the lighting, I don't wear the glasses because there's lights and there's light coming in from this way, there's light coming in from this way. So it just looks a little awkward, so I don't wear that. But when I went to prison from baseball, my vision was probably 2011, 2012. I had excellent vision, which is normal for baseball players. But I started seeing my vision losing it because I was playing softball while I was in prison, and I was in the outfield, and I started noticing I cannot see the catcher as clear as I used to be able to see it from 300 and something feet. Basically, like a football field, I'm 300 yards. That's 300 feet is 100 yards. That's where I'd be standing as far as a center fielder, and I could clearly see the signal from the catcher. I could see the movement on the ball and all that stuff. Couldn't see it anymore. So I knew. But here's the trade-off. I was up late nights, sometimes up 24 hours when I was getting engaged into reading something. Like I remember the Godfather. That was one of the first books that I read that it was just so captivating that I would actually stay up all night and just kept reading until I was done. But here's the trade-off. I wear glasses right now, not for reading, but mostly for distance when I'm out driving. So you don't see me with the glasses on in the inside. But I lost a little bit of my sight. But what the trade-off was that I read so much, I actually gained control and mastery of my mind. So I will take that at all. I'll take that trade-off at any time. All right, so we've covered a lot here. And the main theme, again, this is mastering the gift of you, as far as that you want to be in a lifelong pursuit of taking whatever skills that you have and putting yourself in a position where that skill set can actually be beneficial to you. I have a ton of skills. I've decided to focus specifically on being an author, being a motivational speaker, and having a presence on social media. Those are the things that I'm focusing on. I could have focused on a number of other things, community building, all that stuff. But this is what I'm focusing on. So now that's what I'm mastering. This is my challenge to you as we're going through the 9 pillars of success. First and foremost, and I say this every time, you need to ask and answer yourself those 3 questions. Okay? Because when you do that, real quickly, you create these daily behaviors, these habits, these skills, this knowledge, this execution, this character, and then you change your future. You now then have great focus, faith, and then it gives you direction. Direction allows you to make the plans. The plans allow you to be a tool for yourself as opposed to others. You're actually able to navigate yourself through this, through this life. And once you do that, you then now have something to sit on top of the 9 pillars of success. All right. So with that, what I want you to do is after you answer those questions, then I want you to take one of the pillars. We covered them all.